Welcome back to Bizarre Bazaar, and this is the most horrendous letter I have ever received. I'm not joking. If you get offended, then don't watch this video. This isn't clickbait. If you can't look at this letter objectively, then go check out one of my other videos, because this letter was written to offend. Anyone and everyone will find it disturbing. The letter is from serial killer Phillip Carl Jablonski, and it was actually sent to me back in 2019. But because of how disturbing it is, I have never shown the full letter. Not a great deal is known about Jablonski, but he was truly a brutal murderer, a horrific SO, and he had zero remorse for what he did. And this is what makes the letter so interesting, as he is just brutally honest. Another thing that makes this letter stand out is that Jablonski died just 2 months after sending me this letter, on December 27th, 2019. It's 31 pages long, and it could very well be the final testament of a serial killer. Before we start, if you want to write to inmates like I do, then use the service I use. It's called Gmail. It's fast and it's secure, and it means you don't have to use your home address. That's the main reason why I like it. I get physical letters sent to my house, but I don't give the inmates my home address. I'll leave a link to their services in the description below. Just go check out the website. And while we're here, if you enjoyed this video, please drop it a like and subscribe if you're new. Phillip Carl Jablonski was born on January 3rd, 1946. He was an American serial killer convicted of killing 5 women in California and Utah between 1978 and 1991. Jablonski's alcoholic father beat and essayed his wife and children. Jablonski met his first wife, Alice McGowan, in high school. While living in Texas, Jablonski became sexually violent. He would put a pillow over McGowan's face and attempted to suffocate her. On several occasions, he strangled her until she was unconscious. After McGowan left him, Jablonski became involved with Jane Sanders, who he met in November 1968. He essayed Sanders on the first date, which she did not report. She became pregnant, and they moved to California in July 1969. On one occasion, while having sex, Sanders wanted to stop. Jablonski pulled out a gun and threatened to shoot her if she did not continue. He hit her with the butt of the gun and she passed out. When she regained consciousness, he was SAing her. She left him in 1972. So just from that short introduction, you can see what a seriously dangerous individual that Jablonski is. We are about to read the letter, but there are some things that I can simply not read out aloud. I will abbreviate or simply leave a gap for when it's too offensive, and hopefully you can fill in the gaps. Dear Mike, I got your first letter and don't want to write to you, because I've been put off by different groups in the UK. Plus, it feels it wouldn't give me any positive to use a PO box in the States, because I usually write very long letters. It's interesting how he starts off a 31-page letter by telling me that he doesn't want to write to me. I don't know how you found my case. It really don't matter. I am 73 years old, been on death row for 24 years now. At the present time, there is a moratorium on the death penalty in California. I have no remorse for all my victims. I had murder and raped and molested. I am the predator, and my victims are my prey. I am on death row for the murder of a college co-ed. I classify the was excellent prey. Also, I'm on death row for the murder of my ugly wife Carol, and my gorgeous huge-breasted mother-in-law Eva. I classify Carol as useless prey. Eva I classify as excellent prey. I murder an elderly female store owner in Thompson Spring Jack. Classify elder excellent prey. Also murder a 9-year-old. I classify him excellent prey. Also a flamboyant gay 15-year-old boy. I murdered in a motel room in Colorado. I murdered my third wife friend. I classify Yvonne well above excellent prey. I murder a female hitchhiker in El Paso, Texas. I classify her as being average prey. The souvenir I liked from my female prey? With Asperger's, I took her nipples and ears and eyes. Carved I love Jesus in the sut's back. We're just getting started here, but this is the first time I've heard of a serial killer rating his victims. I wonder how he rated them, good or bad. I first heard about Jablonski through his artwork on the murderabilia market. He incorporated his crimes into his art, and this is what he carved into Fatima Van's back after she had been shot in the head, essayed, mutilated, and left naked in a ditch. This guy was brutal, and instead of feeling any remorse for his crimes, he instead parades it through his artwork. One of my psychologists wrote in my file, I am like a fisherman and bite the hook where I land my prey. They find out they are in bed with the devil. Another psychologist said, I have an unnatural way of seeing young children in my life and molest them. I was raised by an alcoholic father whose hobby was beating his wife and kids. When I was molested too, small cousin when I told him, and he comfort them. They tell him I laughed and got nervous, painful. Molest my cousin, also punish me. They introduced me to bondage and nude torture and gave me to their close friends. I was trained to be a male prostitute at the age of 12 years old by a high school teacher. He told me to say my dad used to anal fuck his son. One of the group suggested it would be gorgeous to dress like a girl. So to take the suggestion to want anal and had me dress and wear bra with plastic cups and talking like a girl. I want to point out that a lot of this is in broken English, but you can make out what he's trying to say. Look at the handwriting. I could hardly read any of this, and I want to give a shout out to Crime Book Collector, who is a friend of the channel and somehow managed to transcribe this entire letter for me. That was seriously some effort. So as a thank you and as a recommendation, I want you all to go and have a look at his Instagram account. The link for this is in the description, or simply search Crime Book Collector. So Jablonski is talking about the classic case of the abused becoming the abuser. But his story seems so far-fetched. I always struggle to believe it when there's multiple abusers in various parts of their life, such as his dad and his teacher. Maybe it's all just a fantasy, some kind of twisted fantasy. Maybe it's some way of excusing what he did, and maybe it's all true. Who knows? What's important is that this is what he chooses to say. In February 1977, Jablonski met Linda Kimball. By August, they were living together in Palm Springs. Kimball gave birth to their daughter in 1977. On the evening of July 6, 1978, Kimball's mother, Isabel Pauls, who lived nearby, was awakened by Jablonski. He told her he had come to SA her, but did not go through with it, because when he looked at her face, all he could see was Linda's face. Pauls managed to escape to a neighbour's house, but did not report the incident to the police. A few days after the incident, Kimball left Jablonski, and she and their daughter moved in with Pauls. On the morning of July 16th, 1978, Kimball returned to the apartment she had shared with Jablonski to pick up their belongings for their baby. That afternoon, she was found dead inside the apartment. She had been beaten, stabbed and strangled. Jablonski was arrested 11 days later. He served just 12 years in prison for Kimball's murder. He was released on parole for good behaviour in 1990, although in 1985 he had attempted to strangle his mother using a shoelace. A pimp met me at the age of 15 and 16 years old, also being seduced by a few men. I have no shame of being a former prostitute, or shame of having a fetish for men with huge dicks. About being prepped to be taken, had huge dicks. No shame of being a former pimp, became a child molester from a pimp. From whatever is true about this story, it all seems to tell us that Jablonski was raised into a world of depravity. Honestly, this letter just keeps going with some of the most depraved sexual acts and situations. I'm gonna read a few out, but we'll gain nothing by hearing every single one of these horrific acts. I raped my own mother. She was fat like a pig. I pimp a 7-month infant. She was black and named her Chocolate Drop. I just wanted to give you an idea of the vulgarity of this letter. It's constant. I have a fetish for diaper commercials on TV, especially a female infant. I love when they are sleeping up them ends, lying on their back, legs spread wide open, showing off their treasure between their legs. I have to stop there. It's too much. It sounds to me like this guy started writing this letter, thinking I'm not going to write this guy. And then once he started, he got excited and he's just getting off on writing this. I believe this is why the letter is so long and the English is really bad. Truly a vile letter. I'm going to pull out a few different things, but it all ends up in a dark place. I love to tattoo gay and transsexual inmates' arse cheeks. I just love to tattoo heterosexual arse cheeks. When I finish a tattoo above arse cheek, I give them a surprise of sodomy. Then I had a heterosexual inmate on my back and doubled over him. I got him on knees and skull fucked him. My balls were bouncing off his chin. I held his nose in groans. Had no choice but to swallow my sperm. Later, I have men in cell moan and pimp one. He shamed into being a pimp. See what I mean? Everything takes a sharp turn down. Harold Spadoni met and married Jablonski in 1982. After answering a newspaper ad placed while Jablonski was serving time in prison. On April 23, 1991, Spadoni, 46, and her mother Eva Peterson, 72, were murdered in their home. Spadoni was shot, suffocated with duct tape, then stabbed, while Peterson was essayed and shot. I'm reading the rest of the letter, and I'm now remembering why I've never shown it in full. I literally can't say what's being fully described, as it's just horrific abuse. So instead, I'm going to pull out segments and give you a brief rundown of what he's talking about. So here, he's talking about owning a photography studio and having access to select victims, one specifically called Peanut, and also having special customers, so no one would hear the sisters scream. I would adjust the voltage, pose them exotic poses. It was time for April to experience her worst nightmare. I am heaven and fear. I know my special customers would go ape for slut or Peanut. I had 8x10 frame photo display in my shop when special customers show up. That's honestly all that should be heard. It's truly vile. Weirdly, after this huge story of abuse, he ends the letter with an almost wholesome tale about his pets. I had 2 cats. One was Russian Blue Siamese. We found her in a heavy rainstorm. We named her Drop. I nicknamed her Psycho Cat. We got another cat. She was almost completely black. She had white markings on her ears and paws and a white star on her forehead. We named her Spot, but I nicknamed her Classy Cat. Still, Psycho Cat went Crazy Cat in the territory. She tried everything a cat could do to chase Crazy Cat off, but it didn't work. If pets could hold a gun, I believe Psycho Cat would have shot Crazy Cat. Weird and totally not connected to the rest of the letter. It shows how he can just flip from one mood to the next. Jablonski was also charged with the robbery and subsequent murder of Margie Rogers. She and her husband owned a store on Interstate 70, where her body was found. Rogers had been essayed and shot twice in the head. Jablonski was apprehended April 28, 1991 in Kansas. He was found guilty of the murders and sentenced to death. He signed the letter off with this: "Well, I'll close for now. Take care, Phil." I don't think there will ever be a right time to air this letter in full. It's line after line of the most disturbing words I've ever read. Fitting to be a final testament of a serial killer. That's all I got time for on this episode. Until next time, stay sane.